All right, happy Wednesday. Make sure you have your notes packets out. We're finishing up our last set of notes today. And we'll begin reviewing tomorrow, practicing the skills that we've done. The test will be next Wednesday, 1 week from today. Going to have a review session on Friday this week at 8:30, and then again on the day of the test. As of right now, your IXLs are due Friday, so make sure you're utilizing your time and knocking those out as well. And I had a challenge question up in the right-hand corner of the screen for my classes, and we can kind of get an idea. This is what we're doing today, one of the examples. So if you were to have a problem like this, you can see that if you were asked to find the area of the shaded region, you can hopefully see that you can see three triangles. You could also see that there's a big rectangle and a triangle cut out of it. And so that's probably the easiest way in this case based on the numbers that you've been given. And so you'd find the area of the rectangle, which would be 17 times 11. And then you find the area of the triangle, which is 1/2 base times height. And the base, or the height, it would be this number out here to the side. And so you're just going to bring that in. And 1/2 of 17 times 11 is 93.5. And then you're going to subtract that triangle from the area, and you get 93.5. Yesterday's homework was the Argo worksheet as partners, and the answer to that is the partner A got, he was trying to, and partner B got more for his money. So he was trying to get more for his money. You can pause this right now and check your answers. I'm not going to go ahead and show the work on these, but I do want to draw attention to all of these. So once again, there should be 3 lines of work as you're going through these. You've got to pay close attention. The biggest thing and the most important thing is you want to be dealing with the radius most often. And so when we look at this question in particular, now you have the diameter, which your first question here was what's your radius? Remember, your radius is half of your diameter. The back questions are the ones that I really care most about. So as we look at, and I'm not going to go through and do each question, but as you look at them, and they're talking about Argo's bike, and it has a diameter. So once again, it's a bicycle, and it has a diameter of 27. And what it's saying is, it wants to know how far it travels. Well, if this is where the tire is on the road, and it starts rolling, this direction, the wheels start moving, then what happens is it's going to go all the way like this. It might go this distance, but what has happened is you have gone all the way around the circle, and so therefore you need to recognize that you're finding circumference, because circumference is a distance around. The next question, so you're going to be doing on that one, you could do pi times d since they gave you diameter. On this question, number 14, gives you the diameter, and it's saying you need to cover the top of the table with a plastic thing. So here's your table, and you're covering it this time. Well, if you're covering it, it's going to be areas pi r squared. Now, the most important thing you need to remember is diameter is 36, so you need to change that to the radius of 18, and so then it is end up being 18 squared times pi to get to that answer. Now, obviously, if you're a partner B, your answer would be different because they're going to give you different numbers, but it's the same idea. This one, it says a criminal escapes. So here's our mean criminal, and the police believe he couldn't travel no more than 6 miles. So he could go 6 miles this way. 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 6 miles this way. He could go 6 miles. You're getting the idea. Now, if you were to connect all of those 6 miles, you would now have a circle. And so key word here is how many square miles. So if you didn't understand the picture and thinking of it this way, you're trying to figure out area. Since it said square miles, that is your clue that you're finding area, and you need to recognize that the 6 in this case was your R. So whatever your partner B was, that radius would be different. Okay, this one, you're dealing with a bicycle or a circular track, and so you're running around a circular track, okay, and you ran 8 laps for partner A, and it has a radius of 20 meters. So this is 20 meters. So once again, you're going to do circumference this time because you're going to go around. The runner is running around the track. And after you get that answer, you need to multiply by 8 because it was 8 laps. And so partner B was 6 laps, same radius, same idea. So all of those questions are the same idea. These are the type of questions that I want you to be able to recognize because it shows understanding. All right, as we look at Your notes, you're on to page 16, the final page of our notes, and we're going to be dealing with composite figures today. I'm going to try to go through this quickly, and this is the important part. So you will be given these on your test. You have them for your homework, and you're going to be utilizing every one of them. You need to be looking. What a composite figure is a shape that is made up of other shapes. And so you can't just use one formula. You've got to break it into different shapes. And so that's where our key concept is. Separate the figures into easier shapes. You might have to find the missing sides, then add up the areas of each shape. So as we go through, this first question says to find the perimeter first. So we're going to find the perimeter, and so perimeter is the distance around. So this one is pretty straightforward. Sometimes it's a little bit harder, but I'm going to go 13, then 11, then 7, then 4, and then 9. So I have to add up all of the sides, and so once again, this is a pentagon, and so just make sure you have 5 numbers. If you're not using a calculator, then it's easier to group. And so I see that says 20. That would be 20, plus the 4 would give me 24. And so the perimeter in this shape would be 44. Remember, distance around is just in the units, so this is 44 meters. Now, as I look at this shape, there's 2 ways to kind of look at this one. And so this is where it gets challenging for some students. So I'm going to draw a couple of different options and then go from there. Some students will see it this way, and they go like this. And if you did that, then you break it into a rectangle up on top and then a trapezoid, and you would have to add those together. You could do it that way. That would be method 1 that some of you saw. Some of you would see it as this way. I'm going to draw a line down this way, and now I have a triangle and a rectangle. So I guess I'm going to try that one just because I kind of like, I'm going to just go with that setup. So triangles are 1/2 base times height. And so as you're dealing with this triangle, the problem is, so we have a 90 here. Well, this one is probably the harder way to do it, honestly, but I'm going to go with it this way just because that's the way I'm going to do it. But so if this distance is 4, now what I want you to notice is if this distance from here to here is 4, then, and this distance is the same as the other distance, which is 11, then what you would do is 11 minus 4 is 7. So you can see that that height is 7 because 7 plus 4 is 11, and that distance has to be 11. So I'm going to go ahead and put my height is 7. I'm going to put my 1/2 in. Now we need to figure out the base. Well, if this side right here is 7, and then this side would also be 7. Well, this whole distance right here is 13, so 13 minus 7 is 6. So the base of that triangle would have to be 6. Now, we can take 1/2 of 6 is 3, 3 times 7 is 21, but that is just the triangle. Now we need to look at this rectangle. Well, the rectangle, if you trace it, notice is 11 and 7. And so the area of a rectangle is length times width, or in base times height. So I'm just going to go base times height this time. And it's going to be 7 times 11. And those are interchangeable. And so the area of that is 77. And now I can add those together. And that gives me 98. And in this case, meters squared would be my total area. All right, we could have also done that as a trapezoid and a rectangle, whichever way you want to see it as done. So you can see the notes on this one was, once again, triangles as well. All right, this one is a little more complicated. We're going to do the perimeter first. And so if I'm doing the perimeter on this one is going to be pretty tricky in the fact that we need to add up all the sides. Now, if this side is 3, then this side is 3, so we want to fill that in. Now, what I want you to notice is we don't have a number for this semicircle. So this would be 1/2 of the circumference right here, and so would this. So if you put those together, we have an entire circumference. Okay, so what we're going to have to do is I'm going to do the circumference of a circle. So it's going to be, now the problem with that is, once again, we need for circumference, we need either pi times d or pi times r. Well, if we go d first, let's notice, if this distance out here is 12, then this whole distance in here is 12. And if this is 3 and that is 3, 3 and 3 is 6, that makes this 6. Now, that 6 would actually be your diameter. And so I'm going to go 3.14 times 6. And so the circumference of that circle is, once again, 6 times 3.14. And that's going to give you 18 and 84 hundredths. Now, that would be just the circumference. That is not the perimeter. So I have to go 18 and 84 hundredths. Now, that would be the entire circle, which is what we need because we have two sides. And now if we count up how many threes we have, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 threes. So it's going to be 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3. And so really it is 18 and 84 hundredths plus 18, which is 36 and 84 hundredths. And it's just feet for our perimeter. Okay. So that is the perimeter. That one's pretty tricky as you're dealing with circles. That can be a bit of a challenge for some. I'm going to leave that writing on there, and now we need to do the area. So the area is going to be the rectangle, the big rectangle right here, okay, plus, now we have two circles, or two semicircles, which just makes one full circle. So we could do plus a semicircle. Well, I don't know why I wrote half, but so we can kind of just write it this way so you can kind of see. But a semicircle plus a semicircle, well, those make one full circle. So let's start with the easy. The rectangle would be base times height. Well, that base is going to be the full distance, which is 12. The height is going to be 3. That's going to give you 36. You're going to be adding that to your area of your circle. Well, your circle is pi r squared. Now, this is where we have to be careful once again. So it's going to be 3.14. And the radius, so once again, diameter was 6. That's the full distance. So the radius is 3. And you have to use 3, not 6. And so 3 times 3 is 9. You got to start with your exponent. 3 times 3 is 9 times 3.14 gives you 28 and 26 hundredths. You're going to add 36 to that, and you get 64. The overall area then would be 64 and 26 hundredths feet squared. And hopefully I have done that right. Let's see. This is another avenue of work you can screenshot and look at and see if that makes more sense to you as well. All right, so now we look at this last shape, and this one can be a little bit tricky in the fact that you have to get used to writing in the missing side lengths and those items. So let's do perimeter first once again. And so I'm going to, if I started tracing, I'd go 10 plus 11. Now we get to this little part, and we need to figure out that little part. So to figure out that little part, this whole distance would be the same as the other side, which is 10. If I drew a dotted line right down here, well, that distance right there, if this is 6, then this would also be 6. Well, if that whole distance is 10, now, technically you can't assume, but what we do know is those two parts have to equal, they together have to equal 4. And so we can assume that it looks like it's split in half. It really doesn't matter. It just needs to add up to 4. So that's 2, and that will be 2. So I'm going to add 2. Now we need to figure out this length. Well, if the one above it's 4, then this one is also 4. So we're going to add 4. Then as we keep going around the shape, we go to 6. Then we add another 4. Then we have to add that little 2. And then we have to add this distance, which would be the same as what's below it, which is also 11. So now we go through, and we're going to add, and let's see, and this together is what, 23. I'm just trying to do this to make my life easier. This is 10, and this would be 6 plus that, 17. That would make 40 plus 10 is 50 feet. Okay, so the perimeter of this would be 50 feet. I'm going to erase some of the markings here. and now we can break it into, in this case, you've got a couple of options. Now, this would not be the best option, I would say. Some people will try to break it into 3 rectangles. I don't feel like that would be the most effective way of doing it this time. Most of us are going to recognize that the fastest, easiest way would be to draw that line right here. And so now we have 2 rectangles. We have the big rectangle and we have the small rectangle. And so, and sometimes it's a good idea to just kind of quickly sketch it. This is 10, this is 11, so its area is base times height is going to be 11 times 10, which is 110. You need to add that to the little rectangle, which is 4 by 6, and so the area is base times height, which is 4 times 6, which is 24, and so altogether the overall area would be 134 feet squared in this case. So that is what you're basically doing. Now, you're going to be dealing with some other shapes as well. So you're going to be doing, and you got to read the questions carefully. So this is assignment 117. Your teacher will be handing that out to you, or you can print it out at home. If you don't have a printer, then you can just do it on notebook paper. Now, need you to notice that the first 4 questions, all you're finding is perimeter. You are not asked to find area, okay? And so you are going to go ahead and just find perimeter. Some of these are a little bit harder. Notice when you have a semicircle, when you have perimeter and you're asked for a question like this, number 4 and number 3, you need to be thinking about circumference is like perimeter. And so you're dealing with a semicircle, you're dealing with half of a circumference then. On the back then, as you look closely at those, you're finding the area. And so break it into its shapes, add those together, and you can see the shapes that you've been given. So that's the assignment for today. You have seven questions. You only find perimeter on the first 4, area on the next 3. Once again, there will be a review session Friday. Your test is a week from today. Your IXL is due on Friday. Have a great day.